In this lesson, we'll be working rows of double crochet stitches. This is called a single crochet in US terms, and it's the smallest, shortest stitch, equivalent in height to one chain. Let's begin by looking at a stitch diagram for working rows of 8 double crochets. We'll start with the foundation row of 8 chains. Double crochet stitches are the height of one chain, so row 1 will begin with one chain. This doesn't actually count as a stitch, it simply gets us to the height of the row. A double crochet is worked into each of the 8 chains in the foundation row. Row 2 begins with one chain, and a double crochet is worked into each of the 8 double crochets in row 1. Row 3 begins with one chain, and a double crochet is worked into each of the double crochets in row 2. So let's look at that in practice. We'll begin with a slipknot and chains. I'm working with a foundation row of 15 chains plus 1. We need to identify the chain that we'll work the first actual double crochet stitch into. So we're going to count back from the working stitch. That's what we call the loop on the hook. We don't count the working stitch. The stitch next to this one is the extra chain. And the next chain is the one we're going to work into. It's also referred to as the second chain from the hook. So insert your hook into this chain. Make sure your yarn hand is threaded up carefully and check your tension. You'll see there are now 2 loops on the hook. Make sure they're not too tight. Position your hook carefully, and with the hook pointing up, pick up the thread. This is referred to as yarn over. Rotate the hook 180 degrees so it's pointing down, and give your work a little tug down with your thumb and middle finger to open up the loops on the hook. Tuck the hook through the 2 loops on the hook and draw the thread through both loops. Slide the new stitch down the hook. Locate the next chain, inserting the hook into the chain. Look carefully at the position of my hook in the video. I'm just hooking the thread through the chain, and now there are 2 loops on the hook. Hold the base of these 2 loops with your thumb and middle finger to keep them in position. And with the hook pointing up, pick up your thread and pull it through the 2 loops on your hook. Now repeat this until you've worked a double crochet into each foundation chain. Be careful not to miss the last stitch. It's usually the end of rows and the beginning of rows where you're likely to make mistakes. Now, turn your work around and work one chain. Locate the stitch where you'll work your first actual double crochet. This will be the very last double crochet you worked on round 1. And you need to work into the whole stitch. This means that you'll go through the top 2 threads of the stitch. Thread up your yarn hand and set your tension. Insert the hook into the stitch, pick up your thread or yarn over and draw it through the stitch. You now have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and draw this thread through the 2 loops on your hook. Locate the next stitch and continue to work a double crochet into every stitch to the end of the row. I'll be working 15 double crochets in total, and remember the chain at the beginning of the row doesn't count as a stitch in this tutorial. It's simply to get to the height of the row. And before we go any further, let's just pause and count our 15 stitches. Now turn your work around and work 1 chain. This will get you to the height for your double crochets on row 3. Locate the correct stitch to start row 3 and continue to work 15 double crochets. That's 1 double crochet into every stitch on row 2. Repeat these rows to practice your double crochets. Remember to keep your stitch count accurate to make your edges straight. And when you've worked your last double crochet, cut the thread and pull the end through the last working stitch to fasten off.